So kia ora everybody, thank you so much for coming. It's lovely to see you all here. Thank you to the team from PwC. This is going to be very exciting, I know. So I will introduce you to Megan Hamlin. She's the grad and intern program manager. And then Megan, perhaps if the rest of your team can introduce themselves as they go, because I can only see Daryl. Hi, Daryl.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, over to you. Thank you.
Ko whangatawatia te maunga, ko kariri kura te moana, ko te raro a te iwi, ko tinana te waka, ko Megan Hamlin aho. Kia ora koutou, my name is Megan, and as Lucy said, I work at PwC in our grad and intern program team. And for those of you that were on the call a little bit early, you would have heard the discussion there. It was a bit of a shame that that we couldn't all come down to campus and meet you at the Careers Expo, you know, kind of as originally planned. But I hope a few of you got to go along and hear our CEO speak on campus on Friday, and maybe meet him and a couple of our recent grad and interns at the networking event afterwards. And then obviously it's really great to see a few of those faces kind of pop up virtually now anyway. But yeah, so as Lucy said, I'm joined here by colleagues from all across the PwC business as well, and all here to really kind of share some insights into what it's like working at PwC and why it's a really great choice for you. So what I'll do is I'll hand over to my PwC colleagues to introduce themselves, but just wanted to kind of touch on how today will run as well. We're really wanting today to be largely led by you. So I've got kind of a few questions to ask everyone, the PwC people on the call to kind of get us started. But please, if you can just pop your questions up in the chat box, kind of as and when they come up, and we'll do our best to answer those for you. But with that, shall I hand over to PwC people, and Daryl, you're the only face I can see as well. So if we start off with you, that would be great.
Sure, I'll kick it off. Kia ora koutou, everyone. My name's Daryl. A bit of background, I studied at the University of Auckland, but this is actually my second time joining one of these virtual sessions with Lucy and the University of Otago. I started at PwC in the Auckland office as an intern in assurance and audit, and that was through the PwC scholarship program in college, and then I stayed on as a grad, and 5 or so years later, I'm an assurance manager. I'm still in Auckland, but within assurance, I specialize mainly with manufacturing, retail, and consumer clients. So I'll pass it on to the next person at PwC.
I can go. Thanks, Daryl. Kia ora koutou. Ko Stella toko ingoa. I am an experienced designer. I was senior analyst in PwC in the Experience Centre. I do a lot of graphic design, service design, experience design as well. I actually I graduated at Massey through a visual communication design degree. I then interned at a few incubators in the social sector, and then I jumped into government at MBIS, the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, and spent my time there in government to design their experiences. So an example could be is around the temporary accommodation services. Once you've got an earthquake, what is that experience like to actually jump to temporary accommodation whilst you're waiting for your actual home to be rebuilt. So I spent some time there for 2 years, and then I jumped into PwC and the Experience Centre, and I've been here about 2 years now. It's been an amazing experience. That's me. I'll leave it up to the next PwC colleague.
Thanks, Stella.
I can go next if you want, Megan.
Yes,
Stay here. Hi everyone, I'm Jane Ario. So I'm a director in the tax M&A team in Auckland. So unlike the others, I actually graduated from Otago Uni with a BCom LB degree a long time ago, but I won't tell you how long ago, because then you'll work out how old I am. I joined PwC about 2.5 years ago now, I think, and worked in other big four firms, both in New Zealand and Australia, and also a Chapman trip. So yeah, I think that's basically probably enough background from me. Maybe I'll pass on to Russell. I can see Russell.
Kia ora koutou, everyone. I will say actually how when I graduated, so 1999 was when I joined the firm, which is a little bit scary. So I've been here for just over 20 years now, which is actually really scary. But in saying that, it's been an absolute whirlwind, and obviously I've loved it, and that's why I'm still here. So I'm a partner in our deals practice. So I am in our transaction services team. And I'm also our people and culture leader. So I look after the cultural strategy for our staff, and across deals, it's about 160 people. So I've got quite an awesome role in that. Part of my day is finance and thinking about how to help my client make an acquisition or buy or sell business. And the other part of my day is working with my people and making sure that we've got the best culture here for everyone. My background actually within the firm is, and this is probably, I guess, testament to why I'm still here, is I tend to have a 3-year window of changing things up a little bit. So when I joined the firm, I started in assurance, like Daryl, and did 3 years until I got to a senior analyst, and had the most amazing time and opportunity to get to know some of New Zealand's biggest businesses, to really understand how businesses tick. So, going into assurance is really awesome in that respect. You get some really great grounding in business generally. I then decided to try out transaction services. So I decided I needed a new challenge. So did that for a couple of years. And transaction services is really helping our clients buy or sell businesses. So going in and doing the due diligence for them. After that, I decided I needed to go and see the world. So I moved over to London with the firm and spent a couple of years there doing exactly what we do here in New Zealand, because we've got an amazing base here in the firm from a learning and development perspective. So arrived in London and figured I could do things as well, if not better than everyone else over there, which was awesome. But got to work on some amazing transactions over there, some huge ones, which you obviously just don't see down here in New Zealand. I then decided after a couple of years, I was either going to embrace a London lifestyle or be quite serious about my career. And so decided to come back to New Zealand and rejoin the firm here. And then since then, have obviously then progressed to the partner, and then morphed into sort of more internal roles within the firm around people and culture as well. So a very varied career, and I think that's one of the reasons I'm still here. Is every day is different, every day is exciting, and I love those 21 years. It's scary. So with that, I'll stop and hand on to someone else. Oh my gosh. Cool.
Hey guys, oh, there we go. I was wondering when we were going to get the first time where two of us was going to try to speak at the same time, Tom. Do you want to go first? Go for it, mate.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Gray. I'm a senior analyst in the corporate finance team, which, like Russell, is part of the kind of wider deals team. I joined PwC back in 2017 as a grad. Been here ever since. I studied down in Otago, did a BCom in finance and a BSci in physics. And I guess, the corporate finance team here works across kind of mergers and acquisitions, so helping clients kind of buy and sell companies, as well as valuation, strategy, and financial modeling. So you get to work across all sorts of wide range of clients, from FMCG, transport, financial services, engineering, and work on some really cool projects.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Patel. I'm a manager in financial advisory services, like Jay. More specifically, I work in our technology and transformation team. I graduated 5 years ago. I was lucky enough, I did a law and commerce degree, so you spend a long time at uni doing that. So I was lucky enough to do a few internships with various firms. And then when it came to deciding kind of where to start my career, there were probably two things that appealed to me the most about PwC. The first was the culture, and that's something that hopefully you'll get an idea of as you go and meet various firms out there, get an idea of the people and the culture that you fit in with best. But the second for me was the technology, the technology and also the technology journey that the firm wanted to kind of invest in. And that really aligned with kind of my interests and what I want to do. I feel very lucky to be at a firm where it is so heavily invested in training and enabling every single person in the firm to just absolutely be able to use new technology tools all the time, no matter what you do. Everyone knows how to do data visualization, data analytics, and all those kind of things that are going to become the staple of the future. And it's really cool being it, in my opinion, the firm that's leading that journey in New Zealand, which is awesome. So that's what I get to do every day, and I think that's really fun. That's me.
Thanks, Kaya. And I'll just remind everyone on the call that you can kind of drop in kind of questions into the chat box, and you can ask them to someone specifically or just in general, and we'll all kind of jump in and do our best. But I'll kick things off anyway with one, which is what makes you most proud to work at PwC?
I can give that one a go. I guess for me, it's the way that we have embraced diversity and the I guess the enthusiasm and energy that we get from the team here, which obviously helps build our culture. And just to give you some context, a few years ago, probably 5 years ago now, I established our LGBTI network here at PwC called Shine. And since then, we've basically empowered all of our people networks to really stand up and have a strong presence, whether that's our ethnicity groups, women in leadership. We've got a whole range of amazing diversity initiatives that the firm drives. One of the things I'm most proud of is really pushing for Dress for Your Day, which is basically did away with having to wear a suit to the office. And really the reason behind that was I was at a presentation once to a whole lot of grads who just started PwC probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And we'd just come from having these amazing conversations around how we're really excited about all these new fresh thinkers coming into our organization and how we're going to be able to use them to harness that energy and enthusiasm and all these fresh ideas. And then I walked into this group of people and they all looked exactly the same. So everyone had turned up wearing a white or black suit, some with ties, some without, looking really, really uncomfortable. And that was across, both male or females figured that they needed to turn up and look the same on day one. And that was completely against everything that we're about here, and that we really wanted to make people feel like they could be individuals within this firm. And so that really enabled us to push Dress for Your Day, which is really simple. And that all we're saying is when you turn up to work, you should turn up feeling comfortable wearing what you feel comfortable wearing. If you're going to see clients, you might want to wear a suit. Most clients don't wear suits anymore. But if you're just in the office all day, you don't need to wear a suit. Wear jeans and t-shirt, wear whatever you're comfortable wearing. And what we felt with that was it just enabled us to start that journey around being a bit more free to be yourself, free to have a view, and to really stand up and have a voice. And really proud that as an organization, this was many years ago now, but as an organization, we all got on board with that to a point where today I'm super proud of the culture that we have here at PwC and how welcoming we are. Sorry, it's a bit long-winded, but.
Anyone else have something to add?
I was just going to say, I started at PwC, bought 3 suits, and then like a month later, didn't need to wear a suit almost ever again. So thanks, Russell. But I'm loving the jeans and t-shirt life. For me, probably lots of organizations have a set of values or a mission or a vision statement. But I genuinely believe that we fulfill our mission statement or our vision. And part of that is to solve important problems. And if I think about one of the things that I've been doing recently that I'm super proud of is obviously when COVID hit, the government very quickly put out a wage subsidy scheme to basically keep people employed and keep businesses afloat. Fantastic scheme. But one of the problems was just the way in which businesses had to apply for that. If you had a whole bunch of employees, like 70, 80 employees, or you can think of some of our larger clients that had a lot more, you had to individually go into online and individually apply for every single employee. And it was taking weeks and weeks and weeks for businesses, and they just weren't getting paid. So one of our partners gave me a call and asked whether we could try and help some of our clients. And in about 24 hours, we're able to turn around an online robot that would be able to just automate that application process. So our clients could just give us all their employee details. We were able to click a button and the bot just went away and did that in the background. And it meant people got paid weeks and weeks earlier, which is just super awesome, a way to help society and help our clients out. And it's just stuff like that every day, which you don't think a consulting firm would really be able to do, that we're able to just nail and help people, stay employed and survive during what was probably a really tricky time for most. Darryl, you had something?
Sort of along the lines of you as well. Part of my role in assurance, I've also had the opportunity to work with the Pwc Foundation, and I have a board chair role with the foundation, and that's one of the pieces that I really think makes PwC stand out, but also makes me proud to work at PwC, is the focus that we have around solving problems in society, but also solving problems around child welfare. And that's the guiding principle of the Pwc Foundation, where we've got different initiatives and programs such as Flip and Toy Toy, where we can go out to schools and teach financial literacy to students, especially with schools where with the low decile schools are the main target areas, and being able to give back to the community, but also having PwC support and embrace the volunteering hours is also another piece that is definitely great, working at PwC and being able to do that alongside your day-to-day audit work and assurance.
Yeah, hearing the kind of lots of examples of PwC, being able to find kind of links with personal values to the firm values and things like that as well. So those are all really, really lovely examples to hear, guys. Is there, did anyone else on the call want to share something else?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a story. I think my most proudest moment is, so I think about a year ago, my team and I got to set up a pop-up shop up north, up from Wellington, and it was one of the first health pop-up stores for health services, where we got to explore, the purpose of the pop-up was to explore how ambulance services can help support community resilience and well-being. And through 4 weeks we did a co-design discovery research project. We conducted 30 plus interviews within communities, so with locals, iwi and communities up north, and I heard a really devastating and really sad story with a super strong wahine in her whānau, where she went through an experience around her child. Essentially she fell through a window, and then her grandmother, who couldn't speak English, had to try and call the ambulance, and that took about 2 hours. But because she couldn't speak English, her neighbour had to do that. And from that experience, waited for hours, and essentially they were just watching their grandchild on the grass, essentially suffering from all the shattered glass. And from hearing that story, we got to feed that back into the ambulance services and design an experience where how might we design a better ambulance experience, whether it's a technology tool or whether it's about actually popping literal like ambulance services in the regions, in rural regions where technology and accessibility wasn't quite the thing that everyone was using. I think for me, what I realised was the best thing about the firm is that we're actually doing mahi with community. We're doing work with the community, we're talking to the community, and we're creating impact in society as well. And that we're actually growing relationships in that, and we're strengthening them so that the communities can actually thrive without us.
Thank you.
Can I just add one last thing on that, Megan, if you don't mind? And just for the theme of kind of giving back to community, etc. My only other thing that I wanted to share, which was sort of reasonably recent, is during lockdown, I led a pro bono project, which helped an organisation called Kiwi Harvest. I don't know if you guys know them, but they basically think food rescues, like when cafes, etc. have food that go to waste, someone goes around, collects them all and gives them to people that are in need. But but think much bigger and much sort of bigger scale with bulk food. So we're talking like supermarkets, and then they're the ones that sort of give it to food rescues, and then food rescues obviously then give it to people in need. So obviously with COVID, etc., the government obviously saw that unemployment and the need for food will increase over time. So they had identified Kiwi Harvest as an organisation that probably needs to upscale fast. And part of the things that they wanted to do was, I guess, try and find a way to try and model and try and almost predict as much as you can where those food needs are going to be. And so they came to PwC and said, we don't really know what we want, but we're going to need a whole bunch of help with a bunch of different things. And we said, that's fine, we'll dedicate some resources to you and you just let us know what you end up needing. And what they ended up needing was kind of help on that modeling. And so there was actually quite a few of us from quite different parts of the businesses, someone from deals who knows a lot more about spreadsheets and modeling than I do. And someone from our team just kind of doing research just to get data, etc. This isn't part of our day-to-day job as accountants, some of the stuff, but because it was a really good cause, we kind of just really got in there and helped them do whatever it is they needed to do. And in the end, I guess obviously we ended up helping them develop a model and have some sort of research data backing that up to kind of predict where the need for food might be. And that helped with their meeting for the government to get funding. And so it's just kind of those kind of stories that, we were able to do that, and we'll be able to do that pro bono as well. So that was something that I guess I was really proud to be part of.
Absolutely. Well, I'll ask another question as well while we wait for some more to come in. And obviously we've got an audience full of students at the moment. So what advice do you have for people who are about to do their first internship or move into that first kind of graduate role?
I guess kicking that off, there's probably two key ones from me. I'd like to say the first one would be never be afraid to ask as many questions as you can, because you're only going to essentially learn as much as you ask. If you don't ask those questions, you might not find out the answer. And always bring a kind of notepad, pen, and write down whatever tasks you've been assigned to do, just because your memory is never quite as good as you think it's going to be. It's easy to kind of get told to do something, go back to your desk, and then go, oh, crap, I can't remember what I was supposed to do now. And the other thing would be to try to get involved kind of in as many opportunities as you can, both kind of in the internship role that you're in and kind of outside of that as well. So, I mean, that might be, when you go back to uni post that internship, whether you start kind of dabbling in enough of finance as your interest, the share market, open a Sharesies account, put $5 in a week, a month, just to kind of get that experience in the real world just while you're studying as well. And whether you might want to, sign up for any sort of further qualifications alongside, start looking at maybe a CA or CFA, which could be quite useful.
Absolutely. And I'll just kind of add on to that in terms of the qualifications as well. A really great thing about working at PwC is we will support you to do your CA or your CFA as well. So you get financial support, but you also get some time away from your day-to-day work as well to focus on studying kind of before the exams as well. And I think it's always kind of really good to be going through kind of the exam process with a whole bunch of other people in your year group as well, so you can kind of work together and kind of have study groups and things like that too. Any other advice from those on the call?
For me, it's probably just mainly attitude more than anything else. Daryl, mate, great minds. It's probably more attitude than anything else. Like I just think what we do isn't rocket science, and we've got really smart people here, and that's awesome. But regardless of what you've done at uni and how it all goes, I think you kind of almost zeroes out on your first day as an intern or as a grad. And if you've got a great attitude and you're a positive person and you're willing to just give it a go and get stuck in and see what happens and meet new people and have a bit of fun along the way, then you're absolutely in good shape to, obviously get that grad role, but also just have an awesome, fun career. Probably the biggest mistake I see students make at uni is they put so much thought and intensity into getting that first role, but they don't really think about what's going to happen after that. So probably the other piece of advice I'd just give is, think about when you're thinking about your grad role and where you want to be and all that kind of stuff. If you have a bit of an idea, think about the opportunities that this first job that will give you that can help you long term as well. But yeah, attitude more than anything else. Attitude will get you 99% of the way there.
Could I also add to that as well as be curious? I think one of the most appealing things about the grads is that I see that they're always curious, creative, and sometimes even thinking out of the box, and thinking of just new and different ways of doing something. And it's been really cool to see our intake of interns and grads just doing some new things with communities and within our teams as well. And we're actually working in different ways that helps excel what we're doing, especially on all our different projects.
Go for it, Daryl.
And I guess the piece of advice I would give is, like everyone else has said, is really get amongst everything. Like at PwC, you have a huge range of opportunities at your fingertips, and it's just taking every single one of them as an experience, as a journey, and learning from it. For example, in assurance, because we work over different industries, you have the opportunity to actually see how a manufacturing client like Fisher & Paykel Healthcare operates, how a retail and consumer client like Hallensteins and Glassons operates, how a financial institution like PSB or Westpac operates. You have all these opportunities to gain so much experience to actually take that as it comes to you. And before this call, I actually asked some of the grads that are sitting around me that have recently started this exact question. And the piece of advice they said was, don't be afraid to ask questions, but also don't be afraid to ask what the different acronyms and code names and project names that we have, because there's a lot throughout PwC. One of them was only recently realized what FPHARC-MTG meant, which was the Fisher & Paykel Healthcare Audit and Risk Committee meeting. But it took them 2 years to figure out what those three acronyms meant. So ask questions, even if it's, what does this acronym mean?
Yeah, we do love an acronym here. I actually started putting together a bit of an acronym dictionary on our internal site, but I definitely don't have any of the team specific ones like that one, Daryl, so that wouldn't have been any help for that one.
You should share that more broadly, Megan.
Yes, I should. I will. That's some good feedback from me from this call.
Everyone had like lots of great things already to say, so my advice is going to be enjoy your long semester breaks while you can. You never get as long a holiday once you start working. But no, I think in all seriousness, I think basically echoing what people said, just go in with an open mind. Honestly, we don't expect you to know everything on day one. So I think so long as you kind of are willing to learn, put in the enthusiasm and effort, and obviously remember what you're supposed to because you brought your pad along with you, then honestly you're gonna be fine. And obviously don't buy lots of suits.
Yes, what about anything that you think that the people on the call might find surprising about the culture within PwC that you might not kind of see from the outside looking in?
I'm always a little surprised when I speak to people about the perception they've got of PwC, and this is why we do these type of calls, because we're trying to break that down. I mean, at the end of the day, we do have a really amazing brand in New Zealand and globally, but sometimes that strong brand can sometimes give certain people images. A lot of people think we're somewhat arrogant, not always approachable, and that we're just this big brand out there. And actually, when they get into the firm and get to work with us, people are pleasantly surprised at how human we actually are. And I think that was actually one of my pet bits of advice as well from the previous question is, just come and be yourselves. I mean, this is such a friendly culture that we've managed to create here at PwC, and we just want people to turn up and be themselves, to contribute, to be enthusiastic. And whilst we might have a certain structure with regards to, you know, coming in as a grad and we've got people above you at different levels, we really do operate as one team, and we're really wanting everyone to collaborate and to work together. So I guess, yeah, that piece always stands out with me when people come here and go, wow, you guys are really nice. I'm like, why would you think we're not? But again, sometimes that brand does hinder us a little bit.
If I can just add, oh, sorry, was someone else going to speak?
No, that was me.
I was just going to add on just that culture piece as well. Like, I can totally attest to that. I kind of think I've recently just started, but I've actually been here 2.5 years. But even like 2 weeks in, people were like, oh, how's it going? I was like, honestly, I feel like I'm part of the furniture already, but not in a bad way, like in a really good way. It literally didn't take that long. People were kind of like, oh, have you only been here like a month or so? Like, it was so easy to kind of fit in and, find things that you like, obviously there's talks about the Pwc Foundation and the work that they do and all the different programs. There's just like lots to get involved in. And honestly, within like weeks, I kind of felt like I'd been here forever. But as I said, in a good way.
Anything else, guys?
I guess just to add on to that, I think a piece of how that actually works quite well is the way our office is set up as well, where it's all open plan, what we call hot desking, anyone can sit anywhere. That also, I feel, removed some of that sense of there's a hierarchy. I should only be talking to the associates. I shouldn't be talking to a partner who's been here for 20+ years. Whereas having the open space that we have really opens up that discussion as well. So like from a day-to-day basis, you could be sitting next to a grad, and the next day you could be sitting next to a partner. But everyone that you sit next to are all very approachable and are happy to chat about work or non-work related stuff as well. So that definitely helps bring that culture and that approachability together as well.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of miss about being able to be on campus as well, because a lot of the time you might meet with students who have a certain perception of PwC and think, oh, I won't apply because I'm not the right fit, but actually they are. We employ such a huge kind of range of people, and I'm just hoping that kind of hearing these insights from those that have kind of shared about what the culture is actually like here, that you might feel a little bit more kind of confident to put through that application as well. And then you'll be, sitting next to a partner, won't you? Did anyone else have anything to add about our culture?
Yeah, I've got something to add on to Daryl's kōrero. I think this one thing I was really surprised about is how collaborative we are, and whether that's within the office or whether we're in different project teams. I'm working with finance, like tech, even though I'm a designer, and like we've got these hybrid teams. We sort of power through these projects, and it's great to learn from one another and how open we are to sharing our knowledge with each other. And I think every time I'm working on a project, I'm always surprised about how, like, if I'm working with someone from risk and insurance, I'm learning something new, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know this thing about you with cyber, and I'm like, I didn't know that they do things like hacking. It's super fascinating, and I think that's the one thing I was super surprised about PwC that you don't see a lot of places doing as well, and I think that's starting to emerge a lot more, I think, especially in the market.
And I can see that a message has come through about kind of travel opportunities within PwC. So would someone like to kind of share in terms of kind of secondment opportunities to other PwCs?
Yep, so I think that's something we really encourage here. So once you've done, first 3 or 4 years, people do look to go overseas and just broaden that experience. And I think what we find in New Zealand is that the work we do here gives you such a good basis to go overseas because we're a small country, we're quite broad in what we get to do. So we do find that the experience you get is a lot broader than, say, some of your overseas counterparts. And I think that's why you always see Kiwis and sometimes Aussies doing really well when they do hit the big markets, because they've just had much broader exposure in those first few years working. In deals where pre-COVID, we were trialing short-term secondments. So that was to another deals practice across Asia Pacific. So that's something that we'll get back up and running once COVID sorts itself out. And then I was just going to point out, Tom, didn't you you went to India for a bit with regards to our STC, didn't you? I can't see him.
Yeah.
Maybe just chat to that.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky to have the opportunity, was it a year and a half ago now, to go across to India for 3 months. And so I kind of worked and lived over there. We have a office over there that helps kind of us deliver on our clients' needs. I was essentially over there to kind of be the person who could kind of act between the offices and kind of teach the staff how we might go about doing a project in New Zealand, and really build those relationships between kind of the two firms. So I was pretty lucky to have that experience to do that.
Excellent.
Yeah, and in assurance, traveling is very common. I mean, pre-COVID, once again, it's also very common to travel. You could be on a job where you travel to Hamilton, or you could be a job where you travel to the US. And I have to say, I've been very fortunate with the portfolio of clients that I've been on, where I've had the opportunity to travel to Australia numerous times. I've been to US, LA, California a few times, managed to go to Vancouver, Canada, and I also did a 3-month secondment in Dublin as well. So secondments and assurance is very common, from 3 months all the way to 2 years. So a colleague of mine had a 2-year secondment in the UK, working in our transformation office, and she came back mid last year, is when she returned back to New Zealand. So it's, yeah, the travel opportunities are definitely there within PwC, but very much definitely in assurance as well.
I have to say, my best travel story was when I moved to London. I had never been to Europe before, so I was super excited. And this was pre-GFC, where everything was amazing and fancy. There's money floating everywhere. And my first job was in Prague, and we were based there for 2 weeks in a converted castle. And so I kept sending all these messages back home going, you would never believe where I am right now working. So yeah, lots of interesting travel opportunities.
There's also just a question here that's come through, talking about saying, hey, having no experience other than academic certificates, will that reduce my chance of getting a job at PwC? So I guess to start with, I'm within that recruitment team, so I'm looking at a whole bunch of different applications that are already coming through. And I guess I'd challenge what no experience means as well, because kind of as we said before, we're not expecting you to come in as a grad or an intern and already know what you're doing. What we're hoping is kind of through your academics, you have kind of learnt how to think critically, you've learnt how to problem solve, how to ask questions, developed that kind of curiosity, and all of those kinds of skills are really transferable. And if you think that you've you might have had some kind of part-time working experience in a completely different kind of industry. It might have been working in a cafe or working in a shop. Again, so many transferable skills there. Being involved in a university club, doing a competition, whether you've been involved in a community group, all of those kinds of things, we want to hear about it, your CV, in your CV or in your, in your cover letter, because it helps. It helps us learn a little bit more about you and what you're interested in. But also when we see that you're involved in these kinds of things, we can see that you've developed transferable skills in different areas that you will be able to translate into a corporate role here at PwC. Did anyone else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, what we're looking for is just well-rounded people, and well-rounded could mean anything. So obviously there are, well-rounded could mean that got brilliant academics, or it could mean that you've done a whole heap of part-time experience, or it could mean a whole number of stuff. But what we're just looking for is that you've had a bit of experience somewhere, whether that's academic, whether that's somewhere else, or whatever it might be. And those experiences that you've got show that you're somebody that is willing to learn, willing to get stuck in, has a good attitude, very positive. That's what we want to find out about you. So looking at grades or looking at a part-time experience or whatever it might be, that's just a proxy for us to be able to say, does this person have the attitude and the wherewithal to get stuck in and try some things out? And that's why, like, we get a lot of questions around, do I need accounting, or do I need information systems, or whatever it might be. But the cold answer is not really. Like, university is less about what you studied and more about us knowing that you can study, like you have the ability to learn, as opposed to what it is that you've actually learned. The first 2 weeks at PwC, well, if you're in one of our teams that does need accounting, it'll literally be a course on debits and credits, like seriously. So it goes right back, so that no matter where you come from, your background, whatever it might be, everyone's on the same page from day one. So what we're just looking for is do you and your experiences, wherever that might be, do you come to us as somebody that is going to be successful here? And there's a wide range of things that you might have that could bring you that success. Sorry, it's a bit long-winded, but.
Perfect. Thanks, Gareth. We've also just had another question come through from Olivia. What are some of the challenges that you have faced working at PwC?
I can kick that off. I think for me, this is a challenge, but also something that is positive. But I do love what I do, but I find with PwC that and in my roles, because I've got various roles in the firm, that it can suck me into all sorts of things. But because I love it so much, I don't mind doing it, but then sometimes I'll be working really late. So I find one of the challenges for me and anybody, I think, is just making sure that you balance your own personal life with what you're doing at work, and that you've got time for your friends and your family. Because with any career, once you're passionate about something and you get into it, all of a sudden the day's gone and you go, oh, how did it turn to 6 p.m. already? And you go, I'll just do another hour. But after a while, that sort of snowballs, and then you'll be doing longer and longer hours. So it can easily suck you in. So for me, the challenge throughout my career has been really conscious of balance and making sure that that works for me. And I guess one thing that we haven't touched on is the flexibility that PwC offers. So COVID has really fast forwarded our flexibility journey. And what we kind of mean by that is that we have basically, when you're working, it's you work sort of whenever and wherever you want. We're a task-focused sort of business, and therefore we've got things to do. So long as we get those things done, we don't care if you're not in the office or if you're working slightly different hours. That's not the issue. So I'm finding that the whole transformation around flexibility does enable me to have more balance. So for me, I love going to the gym first thing in the morning. So I'm in the office quite early. I'll be, sitting down having a coffee at 7:30, crack through my emails. But what that does mean is that by 4 o'clock, if I've got no meetings, I'll head home. And I might turn on my computer later and do some more work, or I might not. So to me, it's just making sure that with flexibility, it allows me to balance my life and what I want to do as well.
Anything else, guys? Any other challenges?
One of the challenges I had at PwC, but also one of the great opportunities and benefits that I appreciated was the being able to meet different people. In assurance, you work with a variety of teams where, for example, on the Red Bull audits, Red Bull Energy Drinks, I've got 3 people in the team. And then on the Fisher and Paykel Healthcare audit, I've got 15 people. So you have a range of skills and knowledge and different personalities within the PwC, but also at the client side. So sometimes they're enjoyable, they're people you get along with, they're very sociable, but then there are challenges and there are times where they're not so approachable, especially when you're having those difficult conversations with the client, and they might be a bit grumpy with some of the conclusions. So being able to work through that definitely is a challenge that I faced at PwC. But I guess the other parts of that is, how did I overcome those challenges? And it was basically through the support network that we have at PwC. Audit is all about working as a team. So you've got a big team behind you to support you. You've got partners, you've got directors, there's managers, there's senior associates, there's associates. You've got a whole heap of people that you can lean on, but also outside of assurance, there are other people that you can lean on to get their expert advice on how to approach those conversations as well. So I guess that's one of the other pieces that I really appreciate at PwC is you get a lot of support, you get a lot of training, so that when you're faced with those challenges, you can go in there knowing you've got the full support of PwC.
Anything else to add, guys?
Probably isn't PwC related, but the biggest challenge for me when I came in as a grad was just like having to work. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, but like, you know, you couldn't just decide to not do it just because you didn't want to, or like it was raining, so you don't want to commute in or whatever it is. And we're very flexible in all, like compared to the other places that I was lucky enough to intern at, very flexible, but you know, work life is different, especially when you realize that, you know, for the rest of your life, you're going to be working in some format and all that kind of stuff. That's probably just the biggest challenge that I had to get used to. I suspect lots of people will go through that at some point, but it helps when you love what you do. And that's why I think you guys need to make as much opportunity of all these various things that you've got this year at Otago to try and figure out where you'll fit in most, because that's the most important thing, because that will help you have a greater chance of enjoying your time when you start working, because you spend far too long working to not enjoy it.
And I think also kind of being vocal about, you know, if you've worked on a piece of, you know, you've joined PwC, you've worked on a few different types of projects, and one of them you absolutely loved, really be vocal about that, because people will soon start to think, oh yes, you know, Megan, I know that she loves this kind of work, and you can really kind of start to build up your brand. You know, PwC want to be giving you the opportunities for you to develop your career in the way that you want to as well. So I guess it's about, you know, kind of networking within the firm, and I think it can seem a bit daunting when you first join, and it's such a huge company and there's all these people with so much, you know, experience. But once you're here, kind of as I hope that you've been hearing, you know, people do embrace teaching, and they want you to be your best as well. So I guess it's just kind of making the most of the opportunities to kind of take your career in your own hands as well. We've had another question come through. So what qualities do you look for in graduate and intern applicants?
Feels like it's a summary of a lot what we've been saying. So to Kaya's point, I think to demonstrate that you love what you have studied and that you really want to be part of PwC and you're passionate about that. We do get a lot of people apply for roles because they think they should be applying for a role. And it comes through really loud and clear when you're interviewing that people don't really know what they want out of a career. They're not necessarily passionate about finance, but it's just the trail that they've been on. So, you know, with anything, you know, be passionate about what your next stage is after university, and that really comes through in interviews. And also do a bit of research about the role you're going to. There's a lot of information on our grad and intern website about the different roles. Reach out to someone that's on this, you know, on this call today. If you want more information around certain areas, do your research so that when you do turn up to an interview, that you've got some knowledge and curiosity about what you're getting into.
And I think that definitely comes through, you know, when I'm looking at different applications as well. You know, we are going to ask you, you know, why do you want to work at PwC, or, you know, why have you chosen this particular team? And that's where I guess we, you know, it's really easy to kind of see the authentic answers, and then the ones where people think that they're telling us what we want to hear. And so it might be that, you know, one of us on the call had said something, you know, really profound, and it's motivated you, you know, so you can actually go back to that. It could be that you've jumped on the website you've read about our values or our purpose, and it really resonated with you and your own personal values. So it's just that kind of opportunity to share a little bit about you and what motivates you. And I think another piece of advice that I can give during for you going through the application and the interview process is that we're not asking you questions to try and trip you up, or we're not putting in a question just for the sake of you having to sit there and type out an answer. We've really gone through the process, and every question that we're asking you is to give you an opportunity for you to tell us about yourself, and you to tell us about where your skills are and where you want to develop, and what type of things that you enjoy, because we want to make sure that the type of people that are coming into PwC want to be here, and that they're going to add to the culture here, and that they're going to want to stay here long term and feel fulfilled, and all of those kinds of things as well. So it's the questions are there as an opportunity, not as a way to make you feel kind of nervous or to trip you up or anything like that. And everybody who will be conducting an interview has been the interviewee before, so they understand that it can be pretty nerve-wracking. So we will do our best to make you feel as comfortable as possible.
That sounds so kind. Can I just ask you to tell us a little bit about the application process and the deadlines and the if you could do that, that'd be great.
Yes, absolutely. So our applications, they opened on the 8th of March. So they are open and they close on the 2nd of April. And so the applications, they are to join us as a summer intern, which begins in November at the end of this year, or as a graduate in February next year. And I guess, again, big piece of advice there is that if you haven't applied already, so to please send through that application as soon as possible, because we've already started that recruitment process, and you don't want to miss out. So the earlier you can get your application in front of us, the more likely that there will be spaces in the particular team that you're most interested in. And so during the online application process, kind of as Russell mentioned earlier as well, you'll be asked about why you want to work at PwC. So make sure that you kind of do a little bit of research as to how you are actually going to answer that question. And then again, and you'll be asked to attach your CV as well. And we've kind of touched on this as well about what we are looking for. And it's really, we just want to know, we want to know about kind of everything that you've been involved in, and it doesn't have to directly relate to the particular job that you're applying for, because all that involvement in university clubs or sports teams, part-time jobs, community groups, it all kind of equips you with some really awesome transferable skills that and we really value that. So make sure that you tell us all about that on your CV. And then another thing that we'll ask you to share as well is when you expect to complete your studies as well. So that makes it really easy for us to confirm, yes, yep, you're eligible for this grad role, or oh, actually no, we might be best considering you for an internship first, because you've still got another year to go. And then, so once you've submitted your online application, you'll also be sent through a link to complete some online testing. You'll get 48 hours to complete this, but again, the sooner you can do that, the better, because it'll push you through to the next stage. And we've actually just done a lot of work to update the testing platform, just to really make sure that it's a nicer experience for all of you. We know that you might be applying for other firms as well, so just kind of trying to make sure that it's a little bit easier to get through the application process. But so now there's just going to be one test, and that covers inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, and numerical skills. And look, I know it can be daunting to complete the test, so I guess some advice is to make use of the practice modules within that testing. So when you get sent the link, there is a link to do practice questions, and it's so helpful, and I can see a clear correlation between the people that have done the practice questions and their final results versus those who have just rushed straight into the test itself, because I think it helps you get into the right kind of mindset, and potentially kind of helps you kind of calm down and get into kind of focus mode there. So you are allowed a calculator, so make sure you have a calculator with you, and a pen and paper as well is always really helpful. So the test itself, you have 10 minutes to read through the instructions if you need it. So and that time doesn't eat into the time that you have to actually complete the test. So make the most of that as well. And then there's 36 minutes to complete the test, which is 30 questions. So we've reduced the questions slightly and increased the timing, because I know from kind of previous kind of feedback is that sometimes that time pressure can really kind of kick in. So hopefully that makes it a slightly kind of nicer experience, but just kind of make sure that you're in a quiet place where you can really focus. And then after that, that's when we would jump into the interview stage. So the first interview is with someone from our HR or our people and culture team, and that's a behavioural based interview. So there'll be lots of questions where we're asking you for specific examples. So tell me about a time you've learnt a new skill, or tell me about a time you faced a challenge, those kinds of things. So again, advice on that is to just really kind of make sure that you've got a couple of examples that you can fall back on, and look, you won't have an example for everything before you go into the interview. There will be a question that you haven't thought of before, but I think can just kind of help with that confidence. And there's heaps of kind of advice online as well about how to tackle those behavioural type questions. One of the acronyms that a lot of people use is the CAR method. So it's C, explain the context of the specific situation. A, explain the action that you took, and then R, explain the result. And so if you use that structure, it means that your answers, it kind of helps you stay on point, and it helps the interviewer, really kind of understand all the aspects of your example. And then we have the final interview, which is with a partner or a member from the actual business team that you're looking to apply with. And that's a little bit more, there might be a couple of behavioural questions, but it's more about making sure that the type of work that you'll be doing within that team, kind of matches what you are really looking for as well. So it's more kind of looking, it's more kind of work based there. So that's kind of a big kind of general overview. And I think I've basically taken us through right through to 4 o'clock. So I don't know if there's any kind of final words to share, or whether that's about us. All right, well, I can't see any other questions that have come through, so I'll just say a big thank you to everybody for coming along today. Again, would have been lovely to meet you in person, but we're so lucky that we've got all this amazing technology so that we can pivot really quickly and still get to connect over screen.
And hopefully you will be back on campus before too long. We welcome you back on campus. But thank you very much, Megan, and thank you to your team as well. And nice to see you again, Daryl. I thought you looked familiar when you faced. It's like, I'm sure I've seen that happy smiley face before. But anyway, thank you all for your words of wisdom and your kindness to our students. It's been fantastic. And yeah, I'm sure those applications will come rolling in. And as I say, yeah, look forward to seeing you on campus before too much longer, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.